The good news is that there is finally light at the end of the tunnel. Last week, Premier Heather Stephenson and Chief Provincial Public Health Officer Dr. Brandt Street announced that virtually all public health restrictions will be gone by the middle of March. This should mean that life will soon go back to normal. If only things were that simple. While dropping restrictions will make it possible for us to resume our regular activities in relatively short order, mending broken relationships is going to take a lot longer. Disagreements about COVID-19 measures often go right to the heart of our core values. It's not easy to resume friendships with people who have said and done things that we cannot easily forgive and forget. Nevertheless, I think it is incumbent on us to do just that. One of the most helpful things we can do is to recognize that our relationships are more important than winning an argument. For example, those who are vaccinated need to avoid the temptation to rub their unvaccinated friends' noses in the fact that their doomsday predictions about vaccines obviously failed to come true. Similarly, this is not the time for unvaccinated people to triumphantly point out that they were right, that vaccines weren't nearly as effective at stopping COVID transmission as the experts initially thought. Nor is it particularly helpful to relitigate the debate over vaccine passports once the system is finally abolished. If we are going to restore our relationships, we need to allow everyone an honorable way out. In other words, let your friends and family members save face, even if you would love nothing more than to point out just how wrong they were about vaccines. The same goes for differences of opinion over issues such as masks. It's no secret that I was never a fan of mandatory mask orders, particularly after I got vaccinated. However, it's important for me to acknowledge that a lot of people are still quite concerned about contracting COVID-19. This means that I need to be patient with people who are more COVID cautious than I am. If someone asks me to keep more physical space between us, or if a business chooses to mandate masks for a period of time, I will do my best to accommodate their request. It's the right thing to do. On the flip side, it's important for COVID-cautious people to recognize that there is nothing selfish about being eager to resume regular activities. Life is short, and we've put a lot of things on hold over the last 2 years. Take extra precautions if you must, but please don't begrudge those of us who don't share your level of concern about COVID. It's important that we get out of our echo chambers and interact with people who think differently from ourselves. Yes, sometimes we just need to vent our frustrations with our trusted friends. But let's make sure that's not the only thing we do. The longer we remain polarized, the harder it will be for us to come back together when this pandemic is finally over. Winning an argument is easy. Restoring a fractured relationship is hard. Let's begin the hard work of bringing people back together. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Zwaagstra. Council, we have the agenda in front of us. Looking for a motion to adopt. Councillor Pinner, second by Councillor Siemens. Any comments? We'll call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, we have the minutes of February 1st, 2022, the regular council meeting. It starts on page 1. We've all had a chance to review. Looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Hebert, second by Councillor Penner. Any comments? No comment. Anything further? Nope. Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Is there any business arising from the minutes? Okay, seeing none. Council, we have Councillor Hebert is missing tonight. I'm looking for a motion to excuse him. Councillor Penner, second by Councillor Zwaagstra. Any comments? And we'll call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. It is just a little bit before 7:35, so we will go to administration. This is administration A. We'll go to the accounts payable in the back of the book. Looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Penner, second by Councillor Hebert. Any comments?
No comments.
Anything further? We'll call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. We'll go to 9B, building permits for January 2022. That is starts on page 100. There is a motion, looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Pinner, second by Councillor Pinner. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It was a bit of a slow beginning to the year, but it was a cold beginning to the year as well. So it was cold on a couple fronts, but lots of, again, good residential movement. And we know that commercial will come as commercial has ebbs and flows, and that'll be coming up in the months to come as well.
Anything further? Anything further of council? Anything in closing?
Nothing further.
I do agree with Councillor Pinner. It is a little slower start than what we've been used to towards the end of 2021, but it's still a good start, and it was a cold start to the year, and we're still looking for great things happening in our community. Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, we are at 7:35, so we will go back to 6A. This is a public hearing for subdivision 4451, 2021, 8555. This is referring to extension Essex Drive and Sesame Street. At this time, we will close the council meeting, open the public hearing. Mr. Workini, could you please introduce this file?
Mr. Mayor, this application for subdivision, file 4451-2021-8555, is an application seeking to create 62 residential lots, as well as allow for the extension of Essex Drive and the opening of Sesame Street in the development commonly referred to as Lexington Village. And this will be the final phase for this development. The owner of the property is Goldmark Developments, Inc., and the application is being made by Lowen Henderson Bandman Legault, LLP. Notices as required under the Planning Act have been issued. There is no written correspondence on file. Community and Regional Planning Report indicates that generally there are no concerns with the proposed subdivision. And as far as the application, there is an existing drain plan that was created under a previous phase of this development. An amending bylaw will be required as part of this subdivision approval. An amending bylaw will be provided for council's consideration at a future meeting. So recommendation is for council to approve the subdivision subject to a development agreement, an easement for a buffer, and a future bylaw to approve the partial closure of the existing drain.
Thank you, Mr. Workini. Is the applicant here today? And do you wish to speak?
Good evening, Mayor and Councillor. David Bandman here for the applicant. I don't really have much to add. As Mr. Workini said, this is the last phase, and what's been a lot quicker subdivision than we were anticipating. It's been wildly successful, and it's been great to have a wide range of entry-level housing in this area, and I think the demand kind of speaks for itself. So I don't really have much to add other than we were here about a month ago to talk about the rezoning and also having a little bit more of a higher density along the one side, as you can see. I believe that's the west side, if I'm also not directionally challenged, but that's about it. I'm here to answer any questions if there are any, but it's just basically the last phase in our development.
Okay. Are there any questions of council? Go ahead, Councillor Ebert.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I just wonder if you could expound a little bit on the partial closure of the existing drain. I realize that's part of another application, but.
The existing drain was put there to service the subdivision before this final phase was put in. So now it will just be adjusted to reflect the new lots and connect to the drainage pond that we have there. So it's really, the previous one was much more of a temporary fix until we got the final plan done on the final subdivision, on the final phase.
Because the reason I'm asking, of course, is some of the water flow coming from the south that comes over that area there. Are you proposing more retention ponds or Just
The
rerouting it?
existing retention pond that's there was actually created for the entire development.
Okay.
So it was way over-engineered for the first few phases, which is why we have it there now. It's there to service. The original plan was that it would service the entire development. We just decided to do it all at one time, a little bit sooner, so we'd have that capability.
Okay, thank you. Of course, we've had a problem with the culvert in that area as well, going across Bush Farm Road there at the corner.
Yeah, well,
That's why I was asking what,
with the rules now, we cannot drain any more water than originally came in, so there shouldn't be any water leaving there, any more water leaving there than there was originally when it was just a field.
okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything further, council? Okay, thank you. Is there anyone here with questions, comments, or objections to this file? Okay, we see none, but I will ask one more time. Is there anyone here with comments, questions, or objections to this file? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing, open the council meeting. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Penner,
Motion to approve?
second by Councillor Zwaagstra. Go ahead, Councillor Penner.
Yeah, it seems like Mr. Banman's a regular at council meetings, but as he said, this development has been so successful, I think outpacing what they'd even anticipated, so that's really good to see. It's, housing, rent is quite costly, so to have entry-level price points is really beneficial for our community, and I'm very happy to see that this has been so successful.
Thank you. Anything further?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is exciting to see this development go ahead. 62 residential lots is certainly an illustration of the fact that there continues to be strong demand for housing within our city. And once this development is finished, I'm sure we'll get asked often the question of how do we get to Sesame Street? So, so there we go.
Can't resist.
I had to.
Anything further? Anything further of council?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too have been very happy with this project, as most people are. It's given a lot of young families, first-time homeowners, an opportunity to get into the market here in Steinbach and to stay in Steinbach, and so that's been very good. A lot of positive comments. This is also, just to make the comment, this is the first residential property that hits Bush Farm Road. And so this land was actually annexed before we did the whole, the latest community annexation. So this property was annexed prior to that. But this is now a residential property that's furthest to the west and the first one to reach Bush Farm Road. So it's good to see.
Quite a milestone, actually. Anything further? Anything in closing?
Nothing further.
Council, I too agree. This is a great project. This has been a great development, and watching it develop so fast and fill up so fast it's actually been quite good for the area. I agree. It's good for young families, get the first start. The price points are right, and I think we should just continue and not stand in the way of something that's working this well. Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, council, now we'll go to bylaw 2193. This is rezoning of Harmony Lane. We'll be doing second and third reading tonight. Starts on page 43 of your package. At this point, I will close the council meeting, open the public hearing. Mr. Workending, could you please introduce this file?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, this is application for rezoning bylaw 2193. The owner of the property is 1008463 Manitoba Inc. The applicant of this bylaw is Lowen Henderson Bandman Legault LLP. Purpose of the rezoning application is to rezone the proposed lots as indicated from RSF residential single family to RLD residential low density to allow for the development of two-family dwellings. Notices as required under the Planning Act have been issued. There is no written correspondence on file. Community and Regional Planning report indicates that there are no concerns with the proposed rezoning. Recommendation from administration is that council give this bylaw second and third readings.
Thank you, Mr. Orkentine. Is the applicant here today?
I have nothing to add to this one. I was here a couple of weeks ago again. It does seem like maybe I should have a seat with my name on it here. I think this actually might be it for a while, so, other than that, there isn't really much to add from the last time I was here, speaking about how we're just cleaning up some of the zoning here on this phase of this development here off of Harmony Lane.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bannerman. Well, we'll have to go look in the archives. We might have an old name tag for you. Okay, council, were there any questions on this? Okay, then I will, seeing none, I'll ask if there are any questions, comments, or objections to this file. Okay, seeing none, but we will ask one more time. Is there any questions, comments, or objections to this file? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing, open the council meeting. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Siemens,
Motion to approve.
second by Councillor Hebert. Go ahead, Councillor Siemens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is common when we have a subdivision going in and they've made plans, it's been zoned, and they do a review on what our community needs, and we make adjustments. They ask for a variation to make adjustments to the proposed lots. In this case, it's going from residential single-family to residential low-density to develop some two-family dwellings. So I think that's appropriate in this case. The only other comment I have to make is that as I was growing up in this community over the last 60-plus years, I knew where every street was. Now when I look at these streets, I go, then I have to actually look on a map to find out where these streets actually exist. So besides Sesame Street, there is other streets.
Can you tell me?
I can't sing the song for these though.
Councillor Siemens, don't feel bad, because earlier we had to ask Troy, or Mr. Wargentine, where a street was ourselves. So we're all in the same boat. The city's growing so big that we're getting lost. Anything further, Councillor Hebert?
Nothing further, thank you.
Anything further of council? Anything in closing?
No, sir.
Okay, I will call for the question. All those in favor of second reading? Opposed? That is carried. Well, council, Mr. Workington, you're okay with going right into third reading?
That is recommended, yes.
Okay. We need a motion for third reading. Councillor Siemens, second by Councillor Hebert. Anything further? Further? Well, we'll go right into the question, call for the question. All in favor of third reading? That is carried. Okay, council, now we'll go to 6C. This is bylaw 2199. This is road closing. This is referring to west of operations building. Again, we'll be doing second and third reading today. And this is on page 55 of your agenda package. And at this time, I will close the council meeting, open the public hearing. Mr. Workington, could you please introduce this file?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this particular file is bylaw 2199, which is a proposed bylaw for road closing. There is an existing road allowance that is immediately west of the city's operations yard at 51 Millwork Drive in Steinbach. The proposed bylaw seeks to close a portion of this public right-of-way, which would allow for the consolidation of that land with land that the city is anticipating using to expand the operations yard over the next several years. The notices as required under the Municipal Act have been issued. There is no written correspondence on this file. Recommendation is for council to give this bylaw both second and third readings.
Thank you, Mr. Workington. Is there anyone here with comments, questions, or objections to this file? Okay, we see there is no one, but I will ask one more time. Is there anyone here with comments, questions, or objections to this file? Okay, seeing none, we will close the public hearing, open the council meeting. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Hebert, you would like to
Approve.
approve?
Motion to approve.
Okay, and Councillor Damon, and Councillor Penner, second. Go ahead, Councillor Hebert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This road has been in existence for some time, but it's a road that has not been used or is not being used. So to close it will not interrupt any traffic in that area. And if my understanding is correct, that this will assist in accommodating a training area for our fire department. So I think it's a good fit for that area.
Anything further?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the city grows, we need to be able to keep up and keep ahead with our services, and this will allow the expansion of the city's operation yard and continue to be able to service our citizens. We are a very quickly growing city, and we need to keep ahead of that.
Anything further of council? Anything closing?
Nothing further.
Okay, we'll go straight to the question. Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. We'll go directly into third reading. Looking for motion to approve third. Councillor Seaman, second by Councillor Zwaagstra. Go ahead.
Further?
Nothing further? No comments? We'll go directly into the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, council, we have no delegation, so we'll move to 8A. This is reports and recommendations of city manager. This is the 2021 Steinbach Annual Traffic Count Program. It is on page 61. So council, we've all had a chance to review. It's not that horribly many changes from last year, but we do have a recommendation, a resolution recommendation from administration on page 99. Looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Zwaagstra?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll make the motion that's on page 99.
Okay. Is there a second or second by Councillor Penner? Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Every year, the city commissions a traffic study, and the reason is that because we're a fast-growing city and one of the fastest-growing cities in the province, we know that traffic continues to be a major issue. And what we see here is that the traffic studies every year confirm that. And what we do every year is we have key intersections that are monitored for traffic, and then we send the report to the province along with some identification of where some of the greatest needs are. And so I'm pleased to be able to say that many of the intersections, like particularly along Brandt Road, Highway 12 within our city, we have seen substantial improvements on. Obviously, Lowen Boulevard, that intersection needs to be upgraded, and it will be soon. So that is already in the planning process. But one intersection that the data shows clearly, in fact, you can see for several years in a row it meets the threshold for signalization, is PTH 52 West and Giesberg Street. Anyone who's ever driven on Giesberg Street and tried to exit onto Highway 52, particularly during a busy time, knows how incredibly difficult that is to make that turn. In fact, to be honest, if I'm behind a car and I see that they're signaling left from Giesberg Street, I sort of give up all hope of ever making it across because there's just so much traffic. I mean, you got people working in the area and coming to that area. You got that Tim Hortons in the area. So the data clearly shows that we do need traffic signals there. And so I think it makes sense for us to forward the report to the province and to identify this is a key ask at this point.
Anything further?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, that particular area has seen a lot of growth in the last couple of years as well, with First Street starting to go through a redevelopment phase, as well as knowing that on the highway, Mitchell is a growing community and growing quickly, our neighbors over in Hanover, and there's a lot more traffic going through there, and it's time to get signals on there as this report indicates. So I have no problem putting myself forward as a seconder on this motion.
Anything further of council? Councillor Siemens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also, over the years that we've looked at this report, I think it goes back 12 or 15 years that we've got this report. It also focuses on a lot of different intersections than it first started off, but it's been a very good study to look at year over year. I think As Councillor Zwaagstra says, a lot of our intersections have improved because of a lot of decisions that we've made together with Manitoba Highways on the traffic flows. Although we still get lots of complaints about traffic flows, they have improved. I think once Park Road West construction happens, if that happens this year, that'll change our traffic flows and that'll start to change our traffic patterns again. But that is how, as we develop as a city, then this is vital information, not only for us and Manitoba Highways, but to look back and see where we've gone, and it'll give us a good indication of where we need to go with our roads and our intersections.
Anything further of council? Anything in closing?
Nope.
Yeah, council, I will also support this motion. I think it's very important that we do this traffic study. It helps us identify problem intersections or roads, and it helps us to prioritize and get them up to speed to take the traffic that's coming through them. I just want to highlight a couple of things in the summary, and one of them is that there's, I think, fourth point down under 7.1, all intersections counted for 24 years feature a positive growth rate. It's exciting to be living in a city that is growing constantly. When you look at over 2 decades of constant growth, that's great. And that's why we do this, so that we can see where we're growing, we see where people are traveling, and we can plan our traffic from there. And that's what I like to see, and that's why I really support this, and I think this is great. And now our priority intersection happens to be Giesbrecht and 52, and that's what we're gonna go forward to the province with that ask. So call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, council, we'll go to 9C. This is business licenses, page 101. We're looking for, there is a motion on page 103, looking for a motion to approve, to accept all the following business license on the 2 pages. Councillor Penner, second by Councillor Siemens. Go ahead, Councillor Penner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's exciting to see this every year come forward, usually in January, and it's good to see that small businesses start in homes often. And a lot of these businesses are people providing for themselves, but hopefully they organically grow and continue to rise up to be bigger, and will employ others as well as they move into properties and into different areas as well.
Thank you. Anything further, Councillor Siemens? Anything further of council? Anything closing?
Nothing further.
Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. At 9D, this is excavator licenses on page 104. Looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Zwaagstra,
Motion to approve.
second by Councillor Hebert. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. After carefully analyzing each of these applications, I'm convinced that it's appropriate for us to approve them. It's good that we were able to provide this level of scrutiny to make sure that the proper excavator licenses are given. So I suggest we approve them.
Anything further?
Nothing further after that.
We'll go right to the question. Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. 9E, this is bylaw 2200, plan of works. This is referring to Tower Avenue. This is third reading. It starts on 105. Mr. Worthing, could you please introduce this file?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this bylaw 2200 is a plan of works, and it is intended to create a specific parcel of land just to the east of Tower Avenue in the city of Steinbach. It is being proposed as a plan in connection with the consolidation of 2 lots and the subsequent sale of a piece of land just to the north of the proposed plan. This is being presented for third reading to council. Recommendation is to approve.
Thank you. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Penner.
Motion to approve.
Second by Councillor Siemens. Go ahead, Councillor.
Really just a housekeeping issue, so
Okay.
go ahead and support it.
Anything further? Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. We have 9F. This is bylaw 2188. This is street renaming. We'll be doing first and second reading tonight. It starts on page 109 in your package. Mr. Workington, could you please introduce this file?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, bylaw 2188 is a street renaming bylaw that is proposed to rename Clear Spring Drive, which is currently located to the west of Clear Spring Mall, with the south end of it intersecting with Park Road West. And the proposal is to rename this particular roadway to Thresher Road. Recommendation is for council to give this bylaw both first and second reading.
Council, would you like to proceed? Councillor Hebert,
Motion to approve.
second by Councillor Siemens. Go ahead, Councillor Hebert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As indicated, this is to the west of the mall. It's a new subdivision going in there, and it's just a matter of what was initially proposed to be the Clear Spring Drive is now going to be Thresher Road.
Anything further? Anything further of council? Anything closing?
Nothing further.
Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Council will go right into second reading, looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Siemens, second by Councillor Zwaagstra.
Nothing further, except for new road names that we have to remember, because there's also a Blind Creek Boulevard, so it'd be good to memorize those.
Call for the question. All those in favor? Third reading. Thank you. That is carried. Council, we'll go to 9G. This is bylaw 2161. This is local improvement 2021-02. It's for Acres Drive. Third reading. Starts on page 114. Mr. Workington, would you like to introduce this file?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. This bylaw 2161, as noted, was for the proposed extension of Acres Drive from its point at the intersection of Industrial Road west to Keating Road in Steinbach as a local improvement. This particular bylaw was subject to a municipal board hearing, which was held in September of last year. The municipal board has now provided a response and a report, and including its order, and therefore has approved bylaw 2161, subject to the amendments noted. Recommendation is for council to give this bylaw third reading.
Okay. Council, would you like to proceed? Councillor Zwaagstra,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll make the motion to approve.
and second by Councillor Penner. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is obviously a significant construction that will be taking place along Acres Drive. Constructing the street and water main between Industrial Road and Keating is a local improvement. This has gone to the municipal board, and the municipal board, as the city manager noted, has approved the project, and so the city will be borrowing up to $3.1 million for the Acres Drive street construction and servicing.
Anything further?
Nothing further.
Anything further of council? Councillor Penner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our industrial lots are desperately going into short supply, and this is going to be a great opportunity for us to be able to draw more business into our industrial parks.
Thank you. Anything closing?
Nope.
Okay, council, I support this, the debenture, or the local improvement. Looking forward to this project getting done because, yes, as Councillor Penner stated, these are lots that are needed. Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. We'll go to 9H. This is bylaw 2194. This is debenture referring to Brandt Street sewer and water upgrade. This is also third reading, starting on page 143. Mr. Worthing, could you please introduce this file?
Mr. Mayor, bylaw 2194 was a local improvement bylaw that was authorized to proceed by the province for the Brandt Street underground improvement underground improvements that were completed as part of the city's capital works program in 2021. The bylaw authorized up to $1.25 million of borrowing be issued. The city has now confirmed that this borrowing will be arranged with the Royal Bank of Canada at a rate of 2.42% per year for the 5-year term. This particular debenture has been approved by the municipal board. Recommendation is that now that council, or now that the approval has been given, council may give this bylaw a third reading.
Thank you, Mr. Workington. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Penner,
Motion to approve?
second by Councillor Zwaagstra. Go ahead.
Seems a little unusual, given the fact that the project was already completed last summer, but this just is something we knew was coming, and this is just the final stamp.
Okay. Anything further?
Nope, I'm in favor of that final stamp.
Anything further of council? Anything in closing?
No.
Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. 9I, bylaw 2195, debenture. This is referring to Clear Spring Greens Pathway. This is also third reading. Starts on page 150. Mr. Workington, could you please introduce this file?
Mr. Mayor, bylaw 2195 was similar to the previous matter council dealt with. It is a proposed debt issue for a project which constructed the Clear Spring Greens pathway in 2021. The municipal board has now approved the city's proposed borrowing of $136,850 to be arranged with the Royal Bank of Canada for funding the project. This particular debenture is being issued over 5 years at a rate of 2.42%. Recommendation is that council give this bylaw a third reading.
Thank you, Mr. Workington. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Hebert, second by Councillor Siemens. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a project that's been in the works for a long time, since all of us were campaigning and stuff. This was a major issue on the table. As you can see, it's come in under budget, if for no other reason. Instead of paying the 7% interest, we get the interest at 2.42. I'd just like to thank everyone for the shift in attitude for both Clear Spring Greens taxpayers and this council in bringing this project to fruition. Pedestrians and cycles alike are using this pathway, and it's being used a lot. And I'm excited because the focal point for getting the pathway was for the safety of pedestrians and stuff in that area, and I think we've achieved that. So this is a really good project and well worth the investment.
Anything further? Anything further of council? Councillor Penner.
Yeah, I think what's surprising to me is that 60 of the properties are prepaid, paid for the entire amount of their portion for the local area improvement, which is why we are borrowing substantially less than we had initially planned. So I think that's worth noting.
Anything further? Anything in closing?
Nothing in closing.
Well, council, this was this was a real contentious project, and it had gone on for a long time, and then not too long ago, just before this project got going, Councillor Penner brought it forward, and with just an adjustment, and we got a few of the residents involved, and the project was sold to them, and they were on board. And we saw how so on board they were, because 60 of them prepaid. That shows they're on board. And it brought our borrowing down. But in this case, I want to thank Councillor Penner for bringing this forward, because this is a project that you felt in your heart should get done. And I said, and that's why I think that's why we worked on it, and that's why it came to where it is. So thank you, because driving by it, we've used it many times. It's a wonderful path. It's nice and wide, smooth. And I've never driven past it in summertime without seeing someone using it. So it's going to get it'll get used more and more and more. as people get used to it and seeing it happen. So council, well done, and thank you, Councillor Penner.
Thank you.
Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 9J, this is subdivision 4451, 2021, 8509. This is referring to 375 North Front Drive. Council, this starts on page 58 of our package. Mr. Workine, could you please introduce this file?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, subdivision file 4451-2021-8509, being commonly referred to as 375 North Front Drive in Steinbach, is an application by Harv Barkman to subdivide the existing parcel of land to create a mix of 4 commercial industrial parcels under a parcel plan and a condominium plan. The property is designated as both commercial policy area and industrial policy area in the city's official community plan. The parcel also has split zoning, both C3 commercial corridor on the front portion of the property and M1 light industrial at the rear portion. Parcels A, C, and D are to be subdivided as titled parcels, and parcel B is to be subdivided as a bare land condominium unit, condominium lot with 22 units. This particular parcel is certainly a challenge, and the proposed subdivision and the issues to be considered in review were very complex due to the land being included on the existing title not being all contiguous, and because of the degree of development that has already occurred on the site. There is a recommendation from administration to approve. However, there are several recommended conditions. I will read them out. Firstly, that the owner enter into a development agreement with the city. Secondly, that the bare land condominium plan is registered in series with the parcel plan. That a cross-access agreement is entered into between parcels A and B. That a shared sewer agreement is entered into between parcels A and B. That a minor variance is obtained for the overall site width for parcel B. And finally, that parcels C and D are consolidated by true consolidation. And with those conditions, recommendation from administration is that this subdivision be approved.
Thank you, Mr. Workine. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Siemens,
Motion to approve?
second by Councillor Zwaagstra. Go ahead, Councillor Siemens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will try to get my head around this because this is very complicated for me, being a lay person that doesn't do land development planning. I am very happy that we have an administration staff that can actually make sense of this and understand what has to happen here. So the motion is to approve with a development plan as laid out. This is a piece of property that is has an irregular shape, plus it has a major drain going through it. It also has 2 parcels of land that you need to be able to cross that drain to access. And so the recommendation for those 2 parcels, they're C and D, that they're consolidated and also be a bare land condominium development. This lot has been developed, and the correct word maybe isn't cobbled, but it's been cobbled together over time. It was a large industrial lot, so it's got a restaurant on it, it's got a hotel, it's got storage units, and they're all serviced. And now they want to separate those different buildings and build different lots. They want to separate it so it's sellable or for whatever reason. And this has been a project that our administration has been working on for a while already. And while I don't know what other options there are, but this one, the way it is laid out here, I think makes the most sense for us to approve. I don't know. My question to administration was whether there was other viable options, what to do with this parcel, but according to our land planning, this is the best option we have on how to develop.
Thank you. Councillor Zwaagstra.
And Councillor Siemens covered it. He convinced me.
Anything further of council? Anything in closing?
I might confuse it more, sir.
And that's why I want to summarize, but I don't want to make it worse. So I'm just going to call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 9K, we've got bylaw 2176. This is rezoning, referring to Lexington Village, and this is also third reading, starting on page 195 on our package. Mr. Working, could you please introduce this file?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, bylaw 2176 was a previous rezoning application for which council held a public hearing and gave second reading on January 18th of this winter. It was held back for third reading consideration until the subdivision that was just dealt with earlier this evening had been addressed by council. Now that subdivision has been approved, this rezoning bylaw, the recommendation from administration is for council to give this third reading subject to a development agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Working. Just a question to administration. This is just for the 4 lots that are being rezoned to RMD, or 5 lots?
Yes, that's correct. It was, the subdivision application was to rezone, or sorry, the rezoning was to redesignate the lots from RLD residential low density to RMD residential medium density.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Working. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Penner,
Motion to approve.
second by Councillor Hebert. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Essentially, I'm just going to parrot the words that we had on before for changing zoning. The developers know what the city is in need of, and this is what they have earmarked it as. They have seen that this is a need, so I don't see any reason to prevent that.
Anything further?
And just add to that, this is phase 6, which will be the final phase for Lexington in that area.
Thank you. Anything further of council? Anything in closing?
Further?
Call for the question. All those in favor of third reading? That is carried. Thank you. Council question period. Is there any questions of council? There's, okay, go ahead, Councillor Penn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To administration.
Go ahead.
Mr. Workington, our next regular council meeting is on March 1st. Is that, to your knowledge, with what the province has released for restrictions, would we be able to return our chambers back to its normal configuration for that meeting?
At this time, I am not certain. I would have to review the provincial public health order and confirm what is permitted with respect to the proposed change in restrictions that were advertised by the province recently. But that's something that I could provide an update to council prior to that meeting.
Greatly appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions of council? There are no correspondence petitions. There's no other business. Looking for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Penner, second by Councillor Penner. Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Next regular council meeting is Tuesday, March 1st, 2022 at 7:30. Thank you.